and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. He jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields, hello, Columbus, 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herbstreit ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that hasn't committed to Colorado. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusCanton.com. Matt Bruning is here. So is Austin Nace and Chris Moxley, and I'm Felix Sharp. On a Rocky Mountain version of tonight's show, we discuss Nyckoles Harbor and his 6'6" 60-meter dash, and we do our first C2C mock draft of the season. But we start with a special guest, two special guests, actually. Justice Haynes is a five-star running back according to the composite. Consensus number 3 running back in the 2023 freshman class. He's committed to Alabama, where he's already enrolled. His father, Veron Haynes, was a 5th-round draft pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a member of the 2006 Super Bowl championship team. You can follow Justice at Justice Haynes 6 on Twitter, and you can follow Veron at Veron Haynes on Twitter. Justice, I think that's where I want to start tonight with the 2006 Super Bowl. By my math, you were 1 or 2 years old. Okay, we've already had technical difficulties. Is he there?
I think he's popping back in right now, it looks like.
All right, he's coming. He's coming back. Very special guest for you. I know we've got Pops. Dad is here. We just lost Justice. Veron, was Justice 1, 2 years old at that Super Bowl in Detroit in 2006?
Yeah, he was. I think he was 2. Yeah.
What do you remember about having him in the locker room?
So I remember his eyes, right? His eyes was like just huge because we were all smoking cigars and he was like, Dad, what is that? Right? Like he's never seen, cigar smokes and stuff like that. So we were kind of having fun and just, enjoying the moment.
The thing I remember about that game, and I think we got Justice back here, is there was Antoine Randall threw a touchdown pass in that game, if I remember correctly. Do you remember?
Haynes stole my ball, man. Hines ran up at the last minute because we were both in the same area, right? So nah, it's all good. It's all love. Hines.
Do you remember what the play call was? Can you give us the terminology? Do you remember it?
Oh man, no, I do not. All right, for the love of God, if you was to give me $1 million right now, I wouldn't remember what that call was. Man, we had so many different trick plays, man. It was and here's the thing. The interesting part was we would practice it like in training camp, and like we'd go away from it for a while and not come back to it until game week. And it's like, oh shit, we still had that in the arsenal. And we, so I it wasn't like a base kind of offensive scheme or play or anything like that I would remember.
Gotcha. All right. Justice is back with us. Justice, I think you were, 1 or 2, or your pop said 2 years old at the time that you won the Super Bowl in 2006. Were you old enough to even have memories from them? Do you remember being in the locker room?
No, I do not. But, I see a whole bunch of pictures throughout the house, and we have pictures and stuff like that, but I do not remember it at all.
In what ways would you say your father has influenced your football upbringing, your play style, preparation, work ethic, what have you? How has your father influenced that?
He's influenced me by, just showing me the way. He made it to the highest level, and just being able to know that and, take advice from him is really something that I love doing, and just being able to, hear it from him. Because, in order to make it where you want to go, you got to learn from someone that's made it there. And so I just listen to his advice, and I want to make it to the next level. So just listen to every tips and pieces that he gives to me.
Hey, Justice. Grew up a big Steelers fan. I remember that Super Bowl very well. I was a freshman in high school, so this was cool to talk to you and your dad here about that. You guys have Middle Tennessee State, your opening game this year coming up. I'm sure it'll be here before you know it. Music that you like to listen to that you think you'll be listening before that game, getting you ready, getting you hyped before you get out there.
You're on the field. You're getting ready for pregame. You got the Beats headphones in. Give me 3 songs that are playing pregame warm-ups.
So pregame, I'm kind of like a laid-back guy. So I'll start off usually with the Bible. I always start off with the Bible. So I always start off with the Bible pregame. And then I'll switch over to this book called Relentless by Tim Grover. And then I listen to that. And then I'll turn on some Little Baby towards the end of my warm-up. So
love it.
Those are my 3 things I go to pregame.
I love that. That's super cool. So a lot of guys have this. And thank you both for joining us tonight. Super, super cool to talk to y'all. Was there a time, a moment, even if it was a different sport and it wasn't football, where you just said, okay, wait, I'm faster, I'm stronger, quicker, just better overall than the dudes you're playing against? Where you're like, okay, maybe this is legit. Maybe, you're that special kind of athlete that you had that light bulb go off in your head.
Was there a time you said?
Yeah.
Yes, I feel like ever since I was a young kid, I remember, I can remember it vividly, my first time ever playing football, getting on that field, playing flag for the Purple Eagles, and just going out there and just, kind of just flying past kids. Then I remember moving up. I played a grade up, and so they moved me up, and that was something special. I remember making it to all the championships and stuff like that, but then also in baseball as well. Just hitting home runs, striking people out, stuff like that, throwing people out the plate.
When you were playing flag as a kid, whether Pee-wee, when you were 6, 7, 8 years old, there's got to be some kid that you made fall with a juke move and you'll never forget it. Tell us that story.
Ooh. Make fall with a juke move. I don't remember. I had made plenty of kids when I was younger, fall, but I don't remember a kid vividly. I remember going at it with my boys in practice. That's what I really remember, My closest buddies now, just going at it. We still talk about how we used to go at it in practice and make each other better. So that was probably what I remember the most.
Justice, you were recruited all over the country, visits everywhere. What do you have a weirdest question that you were asked on the recruiting trail that sticks out?
Weirdest question. Not really. I got asked straightforward questions most of the time. They're pretty straightforward. You know, I got questioned a lot. You know, are you going to Georgia? Because you know my dad went there. That was probably the most publicized question. You know, expecting me to go to Georgia and stuff like that.
That actually brings me to another Pops. Now you played the game. I'm imagining when you played the game, you had no fear, especially at the running back position, especially in the AFC North. How do you feel when you're watching your son play?
Hold my breath, man. Every time, dude. It's different. I'd much rather take the hits, right? It's just like when they were little, you much rather you be sick than the kids. You know, you rather take that sickness for them. But you know, you put it in God's hands, right? I honestly know that He prepares well for He prepares His craft well. So anything that happens, it's got to be the Lord, right? So I just give it to God. Give it to God and trust in Him, man, because, you know, I've known that He's physically, mentally prepared for any challenge that He's faced.
All right, Justice, I know you haven't been with the program long. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions about your teammates, okay? I know you haven't you've been with Alabama about a month, so we saw that you practicing for the bowl game. Who's the teammate that's most likely to make you laugh?
Make me laugh? Ooh, there's a lot of funny guys on the team. Maybe laugh. Probably Kobe Prentice. I could always rely on Kobe to make me laugh. Or Jalen Hale. Jalen make everyone laugh. Yeah.
Funny wide receiver room. Interesting.
Yeah, we have a funny wide receiver group. They're all hilarious.
Love it. What about teammate you want you have your back in a fight? If you're out there and you got to pick one of them to step up for you, who are you picking?
It's got to be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman. It's got to be.
I was probably thinking Caden Proctor, big KP. Yeah, or JC. JC's a massive human being too. Yeah.
All right, we got one more question for you, okay? So we're doing kids are doing freshman kids. I don't know why I'm saying kids. People are doing freshman drafts, okay? With the college fantasy football. So yourself, Arch Manning, Dante Moore, your running back classmate there at Alabama. Tell us why you think you should be a first round draft pick for people in freshman drafts, considering Justice Haynes in for their draft pick.
I'm just a guy that's like, I'm gonna come in, work hard, find a way on the field any way I can. But when I do get that opportunity, and when God blesses me with that opportunity, I'm gonna show I'm gonna be an overall complete player, running the ball, catching the ball, blocking. I'm gonna do everything, be a 4-down back, be able to stay on the field the whole game. So that's why I feel like I should be a first round pick.
Well, again, you can find Justice on the field, number 22 for Alabama this season. You can find him on Twitter, Justice Haynes 6. You can find Pops at Veron Haynes on Twitter. Hey, you know what? We got to do an NIL. What's the NIL money looking like?
You said what?
I said, what's the NIL money looking like? Austin's our treasurer. You know what? I'm gonna talk to Dad. We're gonna make this happen. All right. We appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey,
yes,
man.
Sir. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, you know what? We like talking to the kids, man. We really do like talking to the kids. We've been fortunate enough to talk to some of them. Austin, Matt, I want to talk about Alabama's depth chart and his opportunity to play this year. You lose Jahmyr Gibbs. Behind him, you have Roydell Williams. You have Jace McClellan, and I'm laughing. Austin, you keep telling me Roydell Williams is going to be a thing. But then you got Jamarian Miller, and then the two freshmen, Richard Young and Justice. I think that he is going to have an opportunity. I think it's going to be a committee backfield. I don't think that Jace McClellan is going to get 50% of the touches this year. I think that he's going to have the opportunity to play. He said he's a four-down back. I believe him. What do you think about his chances of playing this year in that depth chart?
I think the most important thing for them is that there's no Jahmyr Gibbs this year, right? Like coming in, like any guy that you would bring in from the portal, they didn't bring in a guy. There's nobody off the top of my head, and Chris, I don't know if you've heard it. Like, there's nobody that's like rumored to be entering the portal either. Like, I think what they have now is what they're going to enter the season with, or at least certainly camp and the heart of the offseason here. So I think that bodes really well for them. Middle Tennessee State, that first game, that could be a game that they get in. They've got a couple other ones on their schedule here too. I have it in front of me. They have South Florida. Like, South Florida's a bad team. I could see them playing maybe in that one. They've got Chattanooga November 18th. Maybe that one's a little more likely. It's a little further into the season. Maybe a bit more acclimated to things. I think he's going to have chances to at least, get a handful of carries this year. Jamari Miller did this year, and in a backfield that looked very, very similar. And I don't think, Justice is just as good, if not a better a player coming into college. So I don't think the odds are that bad that we see him get carries. He might still redshirt, but I think we see him get touches.
100%.
Matt, what are your impressions about him as a player? And you can give us your honest impressions of him as a player in a freshman running back class that we think is a little bit weaker than some of the previous year's classes.
Yeah, I'm actually really high on Justice. I feel like it's you, me, and Alfred are really high on him. I know you and Alfred have him as your RB1. Like, he's right there with me on Cedric Baxter. I've gone back and forth on whether or not I want him to be my RB1. I think he has everything. Like, I talked a lot about this early on when we did a lot of our first recruiting talks, was like, I think he's really, really good at everything. And that matters going to Alabama, because Nick Saban just tends to get the best out of you. And when you're a player and you go there. So I really like Haynes. I kind of agree with Austin. I think that he will get some run this year. I think he's going to be competing with Miller in that role. Like, I'm torn between the two of you on Roydell and what I think he will. I don't think he's going to be a massive factor, but I do think he will get some carries, which I then will obviously limit some of what Justice Haynes can do. But if he ends up being better than Miller, which I have him graded out better than what I had Miller coming in, maybe he's able to jump him and get some run. Like, I think the biggest kind of, I don't want to say loser here on that depth chart is probably Richard Young coming in the same class, because I don't think he's nearly as good as Justice Haynes. But we also saw him returning, I don't think he returned punts, but I know he's returned some kicks for Buford. Like, we could see him. We know Nick Saban loves to throw these incredible athletes back there for kickoff and punt return. So I wouldn't even be surprised if we see him doing some special team stuff early on too, before he makes his way onto the field and gets some carries. But I really like him. Like, I can definitely see the argument of him being our RB1 in this class based on how much I think, or how good he is overall, and how much he improved too from his junior to senior year.
Austin, I think when it's all said and done, he is going to be, I think he's going to go between picks 8 and 12 in the first round of freshman drafts. Is that fair?
I think so, depending on what the remaining player pool that you have in your league looks like. Like, if you don't have any waivers, maybe there's a couple of guys there. But yeah, I think he should be. I actually tweeted out today, like, my top, the running backs that I think, like, I actually want to draft. There's only 9 of them, I believe. And I had him in the group that probably should go in the first round, along with Cedric Baxter going to Texas, and then Roderick Robinson, who's my RB2, who's going to Georgia. I think was kind of like the rebound plan, actually, funnily enough, after Haynes flipped from Georgia to Alabama there. So, but I think he should go no later than pick 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that range. No later than that.
I agree. I like we get to the opportunity to talk to them, especially since we're going to be drafting them. You kind of get to hear what their mentality is, and just a glimpse as to the type of person that they are. So, and obviously he's got NFL bloodlines with his dad. So we thank both of them for joining us today. Go ahead and like this video. We got to get some likes. Who's bringing you fantasy content like we are? Go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, I want to transition here to talk about Nyckoles Harbor. Nick, he goes by Nick Harbor. Is he committed to South Carolina, Chris, or is he just crystal balled there?
No, he just crystal balled there. Shane Beamer is actually doing an in-home visit tonight.
Relationship getting a little tense. get a little stressed right.
Just saying. He's crystal balled there. They got he's a really, really special player, and South Carolina is putting all their resources into landing him for this class. So,
including sending flyers around school saying, "Hey, if you see Nick Harbor on campus, give him a hug and a kiss because we want him. We want him here. All right. You said he's a very special player. I want to explore that a little bit more. Now, his name is circulating on Twitter right now. Bud Elliott has been talking about him. RJ Young has been talking about him because he ran a 6.64 in the 60-meter yard dash. He's still in high school. He hasn't enrolled early, and he's 6'5", 235 pounds. Just to compare, so he ran a 6.64. Devin Achan ran a 6.63. This is according to Tim. Tim, what's Tim's last name?
Halberstam.
I'll have to tweet. I'll have to retweet.
Our Tim?
Yeah, our Tim.
Yeah,
Halberstam.
Halberstam.
Tim. These are some times that Tim tweeted out. But Devin Achan ran a 6.63, and Tyreek Hill ran a 6.61. So we're talking about Nick Harbor being 6'5", 235 pounds, right behind two of the fastest people playing football right now. All right. This brings us to the question about him as a player, Matt and Austin. What position does this guy play? Matt, and I'll throw this to you first. And can you see him making an immediate impact as a freshman?
I think he should play edge. He wants to play offense, and that's going to be the interesting thing here. What happens? Like, I feel like South Carolina and Maryland, who is another team that he's warm on, according to 24/7 Sports, are the two teams that seem most willing to allow him to possibly do both or whatever he wants to do to get him on campus. You just mentioned how fast he is. I mean, you just go look at we have him, I believe, at 21.6 miles per hour. He was in, I want to say it was the Under Armour one. He raced Dylan Edwards, who is 5'9", 160, who we have clocked at 22 miles per hour. And they had to race each other, I believe it was at least 3, if not 4 times, to determine that Dylan Edwards was barely faster than him. And as you mentioned, this dude is 6'5", wait, is it 6'5"? Hang on, let me double it. 6'5", 225, and he was keeping up with a 5'9", 160-pound running back who can run 22 miles per hour. I mean, he is the definition of special. He can play wide receiver and tight end. You go look at his huddle film. He's got plenty of plays, including ones where like they throw him the ball and he's literally pulling away from defenders with his speed. I just think he's extremely raw on that side, and it's going to take a long time and a lot of development, I think, to really become any kind of offensive player. But if he goes on edge, you're talking about, like, in my opinion, and I don't pay a lot of attention to defense, so I may be speaking out of term here. The most special players that I can remember on defense were guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett. Like, I think he has a chance to be better than both of those guys. He is truly special, and I think if he sticks on edge, he could be even better. So that's what I would want him to do. But whatever he decides to do is, we'll find out.
Can I add real quick that if he goes to South Carolina, they will play him where he wants to play. From everything that I have heard within the program, they will play him wherever he wants to go. He wants to play wide receiver. He wants to play tight end. It doesn't matter. They just want this dude in the room, period, because he is potentially the best size-adjusted athlete in the world. Not an exaggeration.
Yeah, I don't want to count out an athlete of his size ever. Like Cam Seldon is that, he's not quite that level of athlete, but he's pretty crazy too. And I'm totally done with him, and I don't have the balls to drop him below like RB8 because the guy is just like such a phenomenal athlete. So I'll have the same reaction with Harbor. The thing that I actually think about him, like I do think that edge is his better position. He doesn't have a lot of bend and flexibility at this stage. He's he almost would have to be like a strong side edge and maybe with a hand in the dirt, which, if you're looking at like career earning potential or, think about the franchise tag in terms of value of the position, I don't know that like a strong side guy is going to get that kind of money that if he just hit it big at wide receiver would. I mean, he's faster than DK Metcalf. Like DK Metcalf legitimately tried out for the Olympics last year, 2 years ago, if anyone remembers that. He's legitimately faster, so it's not like it can't be done. So I don't want to count him out. I just don't know that like he's an can't miss edge guy. So I get why they're possibly looking. I actually think he would just be a better like tight end. Like, just let him bulk. But I know he wants to do both, so like he's not going to bulk.
He's already 235 pounds as a freshman.
I think he's 225. I don't think he's 235, and I don't think he'll get to 235 because he wants to stay. It's like 235. It's like Auching. Like I think he's going to want to stay like a lower weight to run track successfully. Yeah, I think we're not going to see him hit like I think he could get to 250 and still be the most athletic guy on the field. But I don't think we're ever going to see him do that in college because he doesn't want to do that. Like he wants to stay light for track.
He wants to run track, and we have our athleticism database at campuscanton.com. It's included in the tools. One of my favorite tools because it's pretty neat where you can compare. It goes back pretty far. There's and it's not just because he's Cristobal to South Carolina. I actually think the Jared Cook comp is really interesting for him. I think he kind of profiles like as a slightly more athletic Jared Cook. Jared Cook was like one of the best athletes at his position. He just weighed 250 and was like about the same size. If Harbor wants to play tight end, he could be a special tight end prospect. I'd like to see him on defense personally. But
I was just going to say, if you're talking about the positions that's going to get him the most earnings over his career, it's got to be defensive end. The pass rusher of that size and athleticism. Austin, you said he can get 250. I think he can get 260, 270.
Oh, I think he could too. Again, I don't know that
I don't think he wants
to do that, which is kind of the issue. I don't know.
In the comp that he got that weight, I think he would be Ezekiel Ansah type with that type of athleticism. Ziggy Ansah coming out of BYU. Even played like interior defensive line and then played D-end for the Lions and some other teams before injuries caught up with him. So, all right, that is the Nick Harbor conversation. It's mock draft season. I see mock drafts. Actually, before we get to that, mocks, are you ready for housekeeping?
Sure. All
right, mocks and housekeeping. Go ahead.
All right, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like this video and you're subscribed to our channel. We're having a bunch of content come out in the next couple weeks as well. As we gear up to release our rankings, as we gear up for National Signing Day, there is a ton of content coming to the YouTube channel. Make sure that if you're watching, that you are liking and subscribing, as well as making sure that you're leveraging everything the site has available to you. We've been consistently building our tools. We released our athleticism tool. It's recruiting season. We have a ton of recruiting ranks up. We have over 240 players currently profiled, graded out on our site. That is a huge help during freshman drafts. And if you're listening to this podcast after the fact, whether you are on Spotify or Apple, make sure that you're giving a 5-star review. And whatever you want to say, I don't care. Just give it 5 stars. Take your friend's phone, give it 5 stars. I don't care. The reviews help us grow the brand and help us grow the format, and that is what we want to do with y'all's help.
You're muted, Felix.
Do we have visuals for this next segment? We are going to be doing, and we're just hanging out. So we're going to be analyzing these picks. Matt, let me just say, Matt looks like he is exhausted, and I don't understand why.
Matt lives exhausted.
Roundtable Matt, campus life substitute Matt is totally different than Devy debate Matt. But regardless,
no, that's true.
And he's muted. And he's muted himself.
I was gonna say I disagree. Roundtable Matt's like looks at his phone a lot. I at least stay pretty locked in on here.
All right, I'm ready to get this started. Do we have an order? How are we determining order? Should we go by youngest to oldest so I can start? How should we do this?
We do youngest to oldest. That sounds good.
Why don't we just go in order of you, Austin, Chris, me? Are you going to put it on there? I was going to pull it up too. So
okay. All right.
Okay, you can go last. You can go last. You go there. Felix, Austin, me, you. That's fine. I'll go third.
Let me before we get into the actual picks. Austin, you're Mr. Zero QB. Are there any players that you would take before Caleb Williams and Drake May in startups?
Yeah, I think this is actually kind of a rough year to do zero QB. Like if I have the first pick, I think I'm just taking Caleb. Like there's no other guy. The only player that I think is in the discussion, and I don't like it, is Marvin Harrison Jr. And it's not because I don't like the player or the situation or the, shit, dude. I'm not going to bet against a kid who's played like he did and his dad's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Like I'm not going to bet against that. I just don't like taking wide receiver that early in a draft. Like, I just feel that wide receiver is kind of a dime a dozen nowadays. So I think if I have the first pick, I'm taking Caleb. And then if I have the second pick, I'm probably trying to trade back, in all honesty, and let somebody else pay like out the butt for Drake May. Because Drake May kind of scares me there too.
Matt, you've talked about your rankings. And I don't know if it was on Campus Life or the last Devy debate, but just how there are so many new players and unproven players. Do you think that it's going to be, given that fact that it's going to be more challenging for newer C2C players this year, given that this 2023 NFL draft class, it took a lot of established names, a lot.
Yeah, I think Austin and Colin talked a little bit about on Campus Life this week, and I very much agree with what they were talking about. I feel like it's really good, like the top 10 to 15 at each position. And then like, I have no idea what I'm doing after that. There's so many question marks. Do I just want to start going freshmen? We have freshmen in some of our top 10, 15 there. And I don't even feel like 2023 depleted that much. I felt like it depleted a lot more running back than anything else, but every position just feels like there's so many questions with quarterback and wide receiver. And this is actually the first mock that I've done. I've not jumped in any of the ones that PJ's done. So, like, I honestly don't even know what it's going to look like come round 2 or 3. So I'm very excited to see how exactly that plays out, because I do think it's going to be a much harder year than, say, the past couple years. Even when, was that a couple years ago, we had DJU and Spencer Rattler going in the top 5, and I still felt better about those drafts than I do right now about this one.
Number one overall pick, number 1 and number 2. Anybody weigh in here? What position group is the strongest going into the 2023 season, would you say?
It's got it. Well, at least in my opinion, it's quarterback. I feel pretty good about the incoming class, and I feel pretty good about the top 2, Caleb and Drake. I think there's a couple questions about the 2025 class, but I like what I've seen out of a handful of them. I think Drew Aller is good. I like Cade Klubnik. I like Connor Wegman. I think quarterback's the deepest position currently. And that's really bolstered by the 26 class, which is a really, really strong class.
So I think it's wide receiver for me because of what Moxley actually just said. Like, I've got 5, I believe, tier 1 wide receivers from that class, some of which are in my top 15. And there's a bunch of guys from last year's class that have dropped down a little bit because they didn't produce. And if a bunch of those guys hit, all of a sudden we're looking at this position being a whole lot deeper. I like Wigman. I like, just looking at the list right there, Drew Aller, obviously Kyle McCord, I think is going to win the job. Cameron Ward, maybe he has a bounce back year. Quinn Ewers, it's a lot of question marks. For me, the only 2 guys I feel good about are Caleb and Drake, and you only get them for 1 year, and then they're gone. At least with a lot of these wide receivers, you possibly have for 2 or 3 years, just based on the freshmen coming in and the guys from last year who have a chance to really kind of bounce back and have better years.
Which position group is the weakest?
Running back.
Tight end.
I think
but if we care about tight end,
I don't care.
I was going to say tight end, but
I actually love my top 14 tight ends, which is more than I can say most years. I do think tight end is also, C2C as a whole is actually very much like an information game. Like, the person with the most information should probably win their league most of the time or do very well in their league most of the time. And tight end, more than most positions, is an information position. So I think like the fact that I feel good about 14 today actually makes me feel really, really good about the position as a whole right now.
Oh, that's crazy. I actually won our C2C league that we put on this year. Wow.
Yeah, Chris has got the most information. That's why you sub with us, and that's why I tell new people not to draft this time of year, though, because there's just not that much information about the
especially this year.
It's tough to ask somebody that is not that familiar with the player pool to make some of these decisions. Like, I don't feel comfortable making a lot of these decisions in January, and I've been doing this for years. So, but
can I actually ask who your tight end 2 is, Austin?
JT Sanders. I have Bowers 1, JT Sanders 2. Yeah,
makes sense.
All right, so we're going to watch for JT Sanders and other players that are changing their names from the time they're recruits to
should be illegal, man.
To just confuse it.
Jalen Moreno Cropper, baby.
All right, so am I starting this off?
Yes, we're going in order of the screen. So you're up.
Yeah.
And
we're
do I
just
need
looking
to
the best looking?
Do I need to go to the sheet, or is somebody going to make the picks for me? I can't. Look,
I'll make the picks. Yeah, I'm here on the screen. You're good, Felix.
And go click on the
Yeah,
all right, so I'm going to take Caleb Williams. I don't think that one bears a lot of explanation. He's like the safest pick. Probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. He can run. He can throw. I would love to see him play within structure more. I really would. Just bring a little bit of CJ Stroud to your game and not so much Johnny Manziel. I would love that. So Caleb Williams, I'm taking him number 1.
Do you think he bails on pockets too early sometimes?
Yeah, for sure.
I think he does it like a lot, which is,
does it more. Yes,
it
I agree.
Slightly concerns me, but he's just so good throwing while he's running that I don't know that it matters. But
the USC offensive line was horrendous too. So like I wonder if that's part of his calculation.
Very well could be. I mean, it's not like he was doing stupid stuff. He would just, it was like 3 steps and like he was already like, nah, I'm out of here. Like he didn't even take the full 3-step drop and like look what was going on a lot of the time. I thought it was very
I'm glad we get to go to Austin here second, because it puts him in a conundrum, at least as far as his strategy and the player that he could take second. So Austin, who you got at the 102?
I am going to go Marvin Harrison Jr. And I don't want to say that teams found out Drake May at the end of last year. I don't think that's the case, but I definitely think that he struggled in a couple of those late games because I think there was a little bit more tape on him. I still think, I wonder, new offensive coordinator losing his best receiver. I think this could be Justin Herbert again, where he really struggles that last year. Now Herbert didn't have to go back to school. He chose to do it. May didn't have that option, but I really do think this could be a case where May's 3rd year is not that great. He slides down boards a little bit. He is pick 8 in the NFL draft and still has a very nice, successful NFL career. But I do think he's going to struggle this year. I think he'll lose value. Whereas Harrison, I think no matter who his quarterback is, will appreciate in value. He might not play the whole season either, depending on how good he is. He might just finally say screw it, but we'll see on that.
I was really hoping to take Marvin here. That felt like the slam dunk.
Take his quarterback. Take his buddy. His high school teammate.
Take it. Of course. Take Devin Brown right here. Take Devin Brown right here. That's exactly what you should do.
You're getting that family.
Going to not. I'm taking Travion. I still believe he's the running back 1.
Giving Chris a gift.
That's fine. I don't really care. I somewhat agree with what you said there, Austin, about Drake May. Maybe I'm making a bad pick there. I'm passing over him. There's just no guarantees. With my NFL team, I'm going to go young quarterback. I want a running back. For me, him and Marvin Harrison are the 2 I don't think can necessarily miss. I feel like those injuries held him back a lot more than what we think last year, and I think he's in for a really big year this year at Ohio State. So give me Henderson.
Austin, before we go to Chris's pick, Austin, can you zoom in on the screen so we just see the picks and not the player pool? I think it'll be easier visually when people are watching this back on YouTube. Go ahead, Mox.
Yeah, there's at least in my opinion, a top 3 that I feel good with. Henderson is not in that. I actually have more questions about him than I do about Drake May. So I will go with May here. Big fan of his coming into the freshman year. He's just an athlete. This dude knows how to play ball. Really great size for the position. He was hurt at one point, and I think that may have affected him down the stretch as well. But I don't have a ton of questions about him heading into next year from an NFL draft perspective. To me, he's a locked-in top 10 pick. I think that you can make the case over Bryce Young and CJ Stroud if you want to do that right now. But for me, it's May, especially in the super flex format.
I've already heard NFL draft people talking about next year's draft, saying that Drake May is not a very good athlete, and that's how you know those people are idiots, by the way.
Yeah, they're idiots. Drake May is Drake May was a really good basketball player too. Obviously, Luke May was a basketball player at UNC, but Drake May's a great athlete. Who's saying that?
I've already seen it 2 different places from fairly prominent people.
The same places that are putting Shedeur Sanders in the same conversation of Drake May and Caleb Williams. As far as
favorite, baby.
Heisman Trophy favorite Shedeur Sanders. Drake May is the perfect combination of player who plays it within and out of structure. and can run the ball. I mean, he's the perfect combination of those things. I'm going to take my running back one here, and that's very easy to take Nick Singleton. I think he's, very close to being a Jonathan Taylor type. He's very, very safe. We're playing C2C here. Now, I know that he's going to split carries with I forget his name from IMG Academy, but Katron Allen. That doesn't bother me a whole lot. I think he's a tremendous prospect. And he's the type of running back that I like, that converts speed to power, that lowers the shoulder, lowers the tackling surface. And he does that in a tremendous athletic mold and body. And he's at Penn State. So we know he's going to run a 4.3 when he gets to the combine, jump 40 inches and broad jump probably 16 feet. So give me Nick Singleton here at pick 5.
Cool. Then I'm going to take Raheem Sanders here with my pick. He's my RB3. So, I mean, this falls right into place there for him. I like him a lot. He's got one more year at Arkansas. He'll be the lead back there. He's proving it against the SEC. I actually didn't think I'd be saying this about him 2 years ago, but I actually do have some, he is not the top tier athlete that he has been made out to be. He gets caught from behind a lot. Now, not to say that he's still a good athlete. He'll probably run in the 4.5, low 4.5s, but he was supposed to be a 4.38 guy coming out of high school or whatever. And he's not that guy, but still a really, really good player, 3-down skill set. I think he'll probably be an early second round guy in the NFL.
These are all different teams, right? I'm not making my second pick for whatever.
They're different teams. I mean, I don't think, they're all different teams.
So God, this is just I feel like a homer saying that. I'm taking Mecca here. I want the next best wide receiver. I think he's going to have a great year, regardless of who the starting quarterback is. Probably, not even probably. I think he's going to be a top 15, 20 pick in the draft next year. Rocket or Singleton, had they fallen, I would have taken. I just don't love taking any of the quarterbacks here at this moment, so I'm taking Mecca.
That's what I would have taken as well here. I thought maybe you were going to go with Quinn.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, I thought that's where we were going, so I was a little bummed. I'm going to go Quinshon Judkins. And I was not his biggest fan, and I'm not sure that I'm still his biggest fan, but you give me that production as a freshman in the SEC, I think I need to acknowledge it and just say maybe you're substantially better than I thought you were. That's kind of where I've come through. And at worst, if I'm taking him here, I know someone else values him this much. So I can at least make a move if I wanted to take him and package him for something else. So I think you're pretty insulated until the season starts with value.
So I'm going to do a little game theory here. You guys said that, tight end was the weakest position, or somebody said that wide receiver was the strongest position. I think it's the weakest position. When I look at the guys who are in my top 10, it's going to be a lot of first or second year players, guys who haven't really been the number one guy or haven't produced on an elite level. It's Marvin Harrison Jr. and then a bunch of dudes. So given that there's position scarcity there, and I'm going to go with game theory here because, listen, this guy, he was the number one receiver in his class. He hit every single year 1-0 threshold. But I think that there are 2 or 3 guys that are better, and I think that another wide receiver in his class is better. But that being said, if he pops this year, his value is going to skyrocket, and he's gotten, Julio Jones comps. The only problem is that he plays like Laviska Shenault.
You want to say his name?
It's already on the screen. I'm going to go with Luther Burden at Missouri. It should just be another season where they're putting him in the backfield, getting him screens. But deploy him downfield. We actually saw that in the spring game last year. He had 2 catches, down the field, but he just wasn't really used that way this year. Got to get away from the line of scrimmage, or it's going to feel very much like a Laviska Shenault comp for me, but I'm going to take Luther Burden here.
I actually think he will.
Athlete.
You don't think he's as good as an athlete as Laviska Shenault?
No. I think he's a good athlete, but Chenault was a much better athlete.
Chenault was Cordell Patterson before his time. After his time, I should say.
That's funny. All right.
I've been listening to a bunch of NBA draft content lately. I'm in the, to my knowledge, the world's first NBA C2C startup right now. So I'm like crash coursing this stuff hard. So I've gained such an appreciation for making sure all the player names and schools are mentioned like 8 times, because they'll just be like, "Oh yeah, this guy." I'm like, "I don't know what the fuck that guy is." I'm gonna go. Man, this is a kind of a dead zone here. Not feeling particularly great about any of the players. Let's get crazy. Let's go Branson Robinson, running back at Georgia. Let's go Branson Robinson here. Man, I don't know why, but like I can't get the images of him just absolutely destroying TCU's defense in that game. I don't care if it was close to the end of the game. I don't care if they weren't tired, because guess what? They hadn't made a tackle all game. They were still fresh, relatively speaking. They weren't touching these guys. Branson was just running through guys. He was running around guys. He looked explosive. I think he's going to be, like, at worst, the RB2 there. And Kendall Milton, I've said this a bajillion times on a bajillion shows, has been there 3 years now, was supposed to be this great player. I think we know by now that he's not good enough to keep a player like Branson Robinson off the field, and he won't stay healthy enough to keep a player like Branson Robinson off the field. I can guarantee you both of those things. We just know that now. So Branson could be, 1A instead of the 1B or whatever as the season goes on. I want to see how he does as a pass catcher, because I still don't think we know that. But I'm just willing to bank on like a Georgia running back's going to get drafted pretty early, and I think he'll really perform there.
Kyle brings up a good point here in the chat. Let's say the names several times as we're going through the analysis so people don't have to rewind. Who are they talking about here? Especially in mock drafts, because we start talking about different players. So, Chris, when you make your pick, give us your player. Say his name a couple of times so people, don't have.
Hey, I'm not the one who went on like a 4-minute soliloquy about
all the things. He was the number one guy. He's an Aquarius. He likes sitting here.
All right. So I don't really love any of the running backs here, not taking a quarterback. So sticking strictly with my rankings, I'm taking Evan Stewart. He is my last high-end wide receiver I have available. We've talked a lot about what we think this offense can be at Texas A&M, especially with Connor Wigman now taking over full-time at quarterback. They're going to have all spring to work together. That is quarterback Connor Wigman with wide receiver Evan Stewart at Texas A&M, who I am taking, Evan Stewart. I think he has a chance to be really good the next 2 years in this offense, and probably end up being a first-round pick. Felix mentioned he was better than Luther Burden this year. I think he has a real shot to be phenomenal, so give me Stewart.
There are a lot of ways that I think you can go after the 107 and 108, depending on, how you feel about Quinshon Judkins. I actually feel really good about the top 7, less so about the next group, because I think it's pretty big. The player that I'm going to take here is, in my opinion, the number 1 quarterback in his class. And he's attached to Lincoln Riley. I'll take Malachi Nelson at the 112. It's early. Like he's a first-round quarterback. As a true freshman, he will not play this year. He'll probably start next year, but this is a guy who I really, really like. And I could have gone a couple different ways with this pick, I think. But projecting value from year to year, I don't see a scenario where Malachi Nelson goes later than the 112 in next year's draft. Like I think that he's just a locked in first rounder next year. I just don't see the scenario happening. So I'm gonna take USC quarterback.
Malachi Nelson, the first freshman off the board. Let's take a second to talk about this freshman quarterback class. Malachi Nelson, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Jackson Arnold. I took a look at Jackson Arnold the last couple of days, and even like he's the 4th or 5th rated quarterback in the class, depending on whose rankings are looking. I'm like, ooh, this dude is good. Is this
Alan True loves him.
We got to get Alan on. is this quarterback class? I'm going to use an adjective here. Is it special, Austin? Is this freshman quarterback class special?
Yeah, even if none of the other quarterbacks existed, literally the only top 4 were coming in. Yeah, I would say that they're all really, really, really good players. I feel really, really good about landing spot projection for them moving forward. I think they all have well-rounded skill sets. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Austin on the top 4. And then if you actually expand that out, I think there's a couple guys in like our top 10 that have a chance to get up into that level as well. So I do think this is a really special class.
Matt, would you have had an issue if Chris took Dante Moore here instead of Malachi Nelson?
I wouldn't have an issue. I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I wouldn't take Malachi here either, but he's probably, as Mox mentioned, the best bet to win a Heisman because he's attached to Lincoln Riley. And I don't disagree with Mox's explanation behind it either. There's a chance that he's probably a first-round pick next year, knowing that he's going to be Lincoln Riley's quarterback for the next 2 years. So I wouldn't have an issue with it. I probably would not do that. I wouldn't suggest you do it, but I do think Dante Moore has a chance to be very special as well.
I would 1,000% be comfortable taking Malachi at the turn here, just from like a strategic perspective. Because I know it's tough to talk strategy on some of these shows, especially if you're doing like a mock like this. If you're doing the college side first, if I'm picking at the turn here, I'm probably picking early on the NFL side. I now know that I only really have to probably take 2 quarterbacks, and then I can figure out a third quarterback or something later if I've got Malachi, because at worst, like Chris said, like the value's there. So if you want to trade him next year to a team that's struggling, like you could probably trade him for Dak the following year or something, or, like a guy like that, or like in that range, and then fix your third quarterback situation over. So like just from a strategic roster construction standpoint, I'm really looking at these first 2 rounds and how I'm going to build out the NFL side, because those guys are probably the most projectable. And I think Nelson slots in really well there. And that's kind of the strategy that I'm now taking with my 2 rosters as I think through this exercise.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I just took him at 202 in another draft. So I'm certainly comfortable taking him in this range. And it's earlier than you're probably going to see him go on any other show. But like Austin just said, and I said earlier, like I think it makes sense strategically.
All right, so Malachi Nelson actually rounds out the first round of this draft. We go Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Travion Henderson, Drake May, Nick Singleton, Raheem Sanders, Emeka Ibuka, Quinshawn Judkins, Luther Burden, Branson Robinson, Evan Stewart, and then the first freshman taken, Malachi Nelson, headed to USC. That brings it to me with the first pick in the second round, and I wanted Evan Stewart to come back to me. I was hoping that Evan Stewart would come back to me. And I'm going to stay here at wide receiver. I just think that there is position scarcity there at that position with the guys that I feel comfortable with. So I'm going to go with, at the very least, the best kick returner in the country, and he could get draft capital somewhere on day 3 just based on his kick return ability. And if he continues to play well at wide receiver, he'll get first-round draft capital there. Had his best game of the season against Georgia. One of the best defenses he played. And I'm going to take Barian Brown here with the first pick in the second round. Barian Brown is who I was talking about. I did that whole thing where I talked about the whole time. Barian Brown is who I'm taking here at the top of the second round.
Learned it from you. Really tempted to go Quinn Ewers here, but I'm actually not going to do that. But I am going to take quarterback here. I'm going to go Drew Allar, quarterback, Penn State. I'm Team 11. I didn't pick Team 11's first pick, but they picked Evan Stewart. So just from a strategic standpoint, if I don't take a quarterback here, probably by the time it gets back to me, I would assume Dante Moore is going to be gone. Connor Wegman's going to be gone. Quinn Ewers is going to be gone. Kate Klubnik. That tier of player will all be gone. And then at that point, if I don't take him here, I'm probably not taking a quarterback till around 15, like just how it's going to set up. But I do like the value here for Allar. He'll be the starter at Penn State this year. The offense will probably still be a little run heavy. I don't expect a fantastic fantasy season, but I think he looked good down the stretch last season. He'll be the starting quarterback at Penn State. That's a program that means something, I think. So I didn't say that. Don't clip that. So I think Allar is a good pick here for Team 11 on the way back around.
Yeah, I like it. I would have gone Alar here. So since you took him, I will take Quinn. I still believe that he will have the bounce back year in that Sark offense, a good year, a good CFF season. And if he does that, he's going to get first round draft capital. I mean, people can say what they want about him, but NFL teams care about those stars and those recruiting rankings, and that perfect rating is going to matter even if he goes out and has a subpar season. If you want to play the value game, at that point you can flip him. That's fine, but I think I'll just cap it at he's gonna have a better year. I believe that, so I would take him here since you took Alar.
Matt, are you taking the over or under on a 59% completion percentage for Quinn Ewers in 2023?
I'll take the over. He's going to be at about 63.
All right. I think it's on. It's on Mox.
Yeah, there's a couple really nice values here, in my opinion. I want to go with another freshman. I don't think I will. I will take a guy that I'm taking all these guys that I don't like personally believe in, but I think are probably the right picks at their spot based on value and what they can do. And that's Braylon Allen. At the 204, I don't necessarily know that you're getting a better value than him here. He's still the size adjusted athlete that we like. He's still raw. He was only 17 when he came into last year, in case you didn't already know that. I don't love the offensive change for him and his production this year, but I still think he's a pretty good player. And I think running back after this thins out a little bit, and so I will take him just because I think that I might be wrong on his part of it is just being wrong on possibly being wrong on his evaluation. Like, I think he could improve to the point where he's a second round pick. And if that's the case, then I'm more than happy getting him in the mid-second or like early mid-second.
It feels like the Tank Bigsby of his class. Like a player that everyone fell in love with as a freshman, and I don't know that they got better. That could be him. But he's so young that it's hard to believe that he doesn't get any better, you know?
He's only like 12, right?
And he never played running, or he was a linebacker or a safety or whatever coming in. So it's not even like, you know.
Yeah, it's his second year of playing running back full-time.
Yeah.
I want to take safe picks early in C2Cs. The problem is there aren't a lot in this player pool in 2023. So, you really have to be confident in projections. And, this freshman, I'm going to wide receiver again. Because, again, I think that there aren't a lot of established names there. So I want to get the guys who I think are going to be potential NFL day 1 or day 2 NFL draft picks or have the potential to be. So I'm going to go to Clemson. I'm going to go to Antonio Williams here in the second round. Apparently that was a good pick because I got some reactions here. But, there are about 10 guys that I feel confident in, maybe less than that I feel confident in at the wide receiver position. And I'm just going to keep scooping these guys up because they're still running backs and still quarterbacks that I really like. I think that those two positions are deeper than wide receiver. Antonio Williams, Clemson.
You saved me from myself because, again, I'm going to try to give the strategic reason as to why I'm making this pick with the team that I'm picking as I do it. Team 7 took Emeka Egbuka in the first round, and I would have taken it. Like, I would have heavily considered Antonio Williams, but I really hate double tapping wide receiver the first 2 rounds because wide receivers are just such a dime a dozen. I think it's dumb to do that. I would never recommend that anybody ever do that unless there's just like stupid value that falls to you at some point. Felix shakes his head because this always confuses me because you said you can never get your wide receiver pipeline down, and that just blows my mind.
That's what I'm doing right now.
There's so many of them.
I'm doing right now. That's exactly what I'm trying to do right now.
So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go Dante Moore with this pick. I think that value-wise for Dante Moore, outside of Malachi Nelson, I think has the most insulated value out of any quarterback, like not just freshman, anybody going to UCLA there. We like Chip Kelly's offense a lot. Like, yes, he's not traditionally what Chip Kelly has had, but like, let's figure that out later. He's just significantly better as a quarterback than anybody that he's ever had. Even, going back to Mariota and those guys, like just so much better than any of these guys as a passer. Like, this is a good problem to have. I don't mind that he's not like an uber rushing threat. I think that he's mobile enough. And I think he can, like, I think UCLA can build something there over the next couple of years. I think they can have a legitimate top 10 team at least 1 year he's there. But number one reason why he has the most insulated value is because he's probably not going to play that much this year. We're still going to think all these things about him going into next year, and there's no room for him to prove us wrong as a freshman. He will almost assuredly go earlier than this.
How is he not going to play this year?
They brought in Colin Schlee. Colin Schlee is going to start all year. That's the plan. Yeah. But they can't have Colin Schlee starting 2 years because guess what? You didn't recruit at UCLA. Dante Moore's a boon. You're not making him sit 2 years. So he will sit a year.
I don't think it's out of the question for Dante Moore to start over Colin Schlee. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we were thinking Colin Schlee was that dude. Now I think that yes, he has a lot of experience. He experience in an up-tempo system playing for Sean Lewis at Kent State. But Dante Moore just seems like he's different, man. It just seems like he is different. He's different. I don't think it's out of the question that he starts from day one.
Oh, it's a less than 1% chance that he plays the opener.
Yeah,
less than 1%.
Let us know in the comments. Do you think that Dante Moore can start the opener? They're both new to the system. There's no incumbent there. So this is like different than, when we talked about Kyle McCord and CJ Stroud. They're both new to the campus. They're both new to the system. I don't think it's out of the question that he starts.
One played high school, one played FBS football. Like that's not
in the MAC.
The plan for almost all of these quarterbacks, like they're aware of it coming out of high school. Like they sign on actively saying, yes, I will sit a year, I will learn college, and then year 2, I'm ready to go. Like that is actively the plan. That is the pitch to almost all these guys. They're not saying, we're going to start some bum ass dude over you, but the pitch to all these kids, I can tell you factually, is that you are probably not going to play your first year. You will learn and figure it out, and then year 2, you'll be geared up and ready to go.
You know what Mike Tyson said about people with plans? Everybody got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Who's going to punch UCLA in the face early in the year?
I'm just saying, I think that you can get into practice in this dude. Dante Moore is really good.
We made a show bet on this at some point.
Who is that? Who made that pick? It's on Matt now?
Yeah, it's on me. I don't think he starts week 1, but I agree with Felix. Dante Moore is going to start this year. He's not going to start week 1, but he will start. I'm going Raheem Sanders here. I wish we would have done this different so I could be picking for my own teams because I would have taken somebody different there at 7. I would have taken Kyle McCord to pair with Mecca. I'm going to take him here. I still believe he's going to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State. Fantasy points matter. I think he could have a Dwayne Haskins type season, and if that happens, he's going to get draft capital as well. But give me the guy who's going to have a great CFF season with that offense.
I'm here for it. We've run a couple mocks at the site, and the ADP will be up at some point. I think he went like round 7 in the first mock. I took him at 311. Like his ADP will end up between like borderline round 3, round 2, in my opinion.
Kyle McCord, referencing Kyle.
Kyle
State
quarterback. Kyle McCord will end up somewhere around the 2-3 turn, in my opinion. I don't think that's bad value based on what you're getting because I think he'll start as well. I almost took this player last time around, and I knew y'all weren't going to take him, but it's Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Like, I knew y'all wouldn't go that way. I, generally speaking, draft the top tight end in my draft if I can do it. I have a lot of Michael Mayer. I have a good amount of Brock Bowers. Like Bowers is just a special tight end. He's going to be a first round pick. He's undersized. Like, yes, he just is. Give him 10 pounds, and I think that he's going to be a miss. I think he's already a mismatch, but give him 10 pounds, and he might be a freaky mismatch. He's a phenomenal athlete who comps to George Kittle, Kyle Pitts. Like, you look at our athleticism tool, it's only like dudes. Like, I think Vernon Davis and Jared Cook are both on there too. Yeah, I will take Brock Bowers, who I think is a first rounder. And at the beginning of the drafts, strategically, I want to minimize risk the most that I can. And I feel pretty good about projecting Brock Bowers into the first round of next year's draft versus some of the other players that'll probably go around him. So if he's available at the late second, like no question to me. I would have taken him at 204 if I thought that y'all would take him, but I didn't think so. So
I'd considered it. I mean, just thinking of safety, but I wanted to go. I thought, Antonio Williams might be safe as a slot wide receiver and punt returner. This player, I'm not going to say his name yet. This player in 3 games, I think, kind of showed us what they can be if they put it all together. So his freshman season, he had a game with 10 receptions. I think that was against like Illinois or Syracuse.
Dude, you got to say the name if you're going to be this cryptic with the stats. We can't play this game.
It's Donovan Edwards. It's Michigan running back Donovan Edwards. And then this year with Blake Corum injured, so we knew coming into college that he was someone who could be utilized in the passing game, excellent receiving skills. He showed that his freshman season. The issue with Donovan Edwards was, could he run between the tackles? Could be a guy that converts speed to power, thumps through tackles, can carry the load, especially being a taller. Like Donovan Edwards is like 6'1" or 6'2". I think versus Ohio State with Blake Corum out and then versus TCU in the playoff, he showed that. So if we package all of that together, it's really a really dynamic player considering what he can do in the passing game. Maybe he puts it all together in his 3rd season. I know Blake Corum's still there, but I think that he eats into that timeshare a little bit more. And then, quite frankly, I don't know that it matters, if he doesn't get 70% of the touches at running back. If he demonstrates the skill set, the NFL will still come calling for him on day 2. So I'm going to go with Michigan running back Donovan Edwards here.
He is not the same player, and I don't want to get it confused with Alvin Kamara, but that was his comp coming into college from 24/7. And remember Kamara's last year at Tennessee, he split with Jalen Hurd pretty heavily in the backfield. If you believe in his receiving skills that much, I wouldn't be surprised to see him still go. So no argument for me taking him in the 2nd round. He's gone earlier in mocks that we've run this offseason.
Gonna go. So this team at their first pick took Travion. I'm going to take another running back here. I'm going to go Will Shipley. A guy that I think could go anywhere from pick 10 to pick 26, depending on who you're playing with. Running back at Clemson. He'll be entering his true junior season. I think he showed a bit more physicality this year than he did as a freshman. I think the new offensive coordinator will help him. Garrett Riley coming in from TCU. My concerns for him are twofold. One, that the offensive line is still going to suck there, and they haven't done anything to address it. And then 2, that they want to rotate him with Phil Maffa enough that he never really dominates from a fantasy perspective in college, and then goes to the NFL and is kind of a one, in a 2-back system, and then doesn't really dominate there either. And at that point, that pick kind of hurts that I didn't get uber production on either side out of him, but he can catch. He's got the PPR floor, but I think it would just be disrespectful to let him go further than this. So we'll take him here and pair him with Travion. Why not?
All right, yeah, 211. So I took Evan Stewart here with this first pick. Had Shipley or Edwards fallen, I probably would have taken one of those guys. Most of my running backs in the top 10 are gone. There's 2 left. One of my quarterbacks in the top 8 is still here, and that is who I'm going to take, and that's Connor Wigman. I'm going to pair him with Evan Stewart. Just like the duo there. We've talked a lot over the past couple weeks, specifically Austin, about how we think this offense can be really good. So I like taking the stack there, and I'll be good. Connor Wigman, the quarterback for the Aggies, to pair with Evan Stewart.
And by the way, that's not a stack. That's the Marvin Harrison Jr. team. But...
What? 211? 111. Oh, see, I'm used to doing this.
Yeah.
What's it called? But whatever. I don't care. Get a top wide receiver and one of my top 8 quarterbacks.
So that made that decision more challenging for me because I thought this pick would have maybe gotten into different direction. I'm going to go Cedric Baxter here. He's or at least he's my RB1 in the class. I think being in that Sarkisian offense is wheels up for him. I think that he might actually get some run this year. Not particularly worried about Jadon Blue at this point. They got a couple veteran guys, but still, I really like Baxter. Getting him at the turn feels like pretty good value. There were a couple other players that I was considering here, but I think he ends up going higher in drafts. And so I want to take him before someone else does. Because at the turn, you're getting the RB1. I mean, Nick Singleton went higher last year, and I think Singleton was a slightly better player, but still, I expect his ADP to rise. So if I'm in a draft, I want to be taking him if he's available to turn.
All right, that concludes the second round. Austin, can you scroll up? I forgot the 201 was. Barry and Brown. All right, so here is the second round in our mock drafts. Let us know who has the best value. How many times have you seen Matt yawn? Biggest reaches. Let us know all of that stuff in the chat. So here is the 201. Barry and Brown, Drew Aller, Quinn Ewers, Braylon Allen, Antonio Williams, Dante Moore, Kyle McCord, Brock Bowers, Donovan Edwards, Will Shipley, Connor Wegman, and Cedric Baxter. All right, let's go to the third. We are bringing the content here. So if you need to split this up and listen to it, one on the way to work and the other one on the way home, do it, but listen to the whole thing. Let's go to the 301 here. I'm going to continue with Chris's trend in taking freshmen. I'm going to go to the wide receiver position. I'm going to take USC's Zachariah Branch. However, I think that there is another running back that deserves to be, considered in the last 2 or 3 picks. And so I'll be interested to see if he's taken in the next couple of picks. But Zachariah Branch, explosive player. USC doesn't have an established guy with Jordan Addison leaving. Zachariah Branch brings a lot of speed. He can return punts if he actually catches the ball and doesn't let it bounce. He's going to be playing with Caleb Williams, and after that, Malachi Nelson in Lincoln Riley's system. Lincoln Riley has had success with Dede Westbrook. He's had success with Hollywood Brown. And there's another smaller-ish receiver. Zachariah Branch might be more explosive. Is probably just as explosive as all of those guys. And Hollywood Brown hadn't had the career that we thought. He's still an explosive player. So give me Zachariah Branch here. USC at the top of the third, 301.
Yeah, team 2 here. I hate their construction from the standpoint of what I have to pick at this pick. They have a wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., and they have Connor Wegman here. No running backs on this roster, which I really like to have at least one running back in the first 2 rounds. And there's nobody, in my opinion, worth taking at this spot. So I'll shift. I'll go wide receiver, and I will take Xavier Worthy here. I have him at wide receiver 7. Wow, I'm surprised that Matt's disappointed that he didn't get to take Xavier Worthy.
It's only because of the shit team 3 that's been built, and I needed a wide receiver. So
let me just say that I'm not looking at who's on which. I can't even see who's on which teams. I'm
me neither. We're doing that because this is supposed to be a mock draft, so we're supposed to be building these teams the way we would. That's why I said we should have picked teams and then just had us continually picking those teams, because I hate the way team 3 is built as well. I would not build it back-to-back running backs.
Oh, I double tap running back in the first 2 rounds all day, because then you don't have to take one in the first 4 or 5 rounds of your draft. You can go 0 running back or hero running back on the other side.
When you take Travion Henderson and Will Shipley, I disagree. Henderson should be fine.
Kiss. There's some there's easy projection there. Yeah, Worthy. Yeah, fast. He'll do well this year.
Good analysis. Worthy, fast.
Yeah, and he's draft eligible coming up too, which is a nice plus.
All right. Well, I don't want any of my quarterbacks here. Running back, Moxley took the last guy I really wanted in Cedric Baxter. You just took Xavier Worthy, but I'm going to stick at the wide receiver position. Go with the guy that I have top 6. Probably a reach here, but I don't care. I'm going Matthew Golden, wide receiver, Houston. I think he's going to have a really good year. We've seen how great Tank Dell was in this system. I know Austin. Wait. Who's their quarterback? Is it Preston Stone? Or am I
Donovan
thinking
Smith.
wrong? Donovan Smith. That's right.
Probably.
Which I am a little worried about, but regardless, should be fine there. And then they are moving into the Big 12, which he can't have that. He's only a G5 receiver knock on him anymore. Even before, when they did not have good quarterbacks, the system has continually produced wide receivers. I just think he's going to be absolutely fine. So give me a guy who should be probably a top 24 to 36 CFF wide receiver and probably getting pretty decent NFL draft capital.
Austin said earlier that there are 2 players he felt that would maintain value. Quarterbacks that would maintain value. And there's 3. And the third is Arch Manning. Hint, Manning. I don't dislike Arch, despite, thinking that he's not the number 1 in his class. I think that Moore and Malachi Nelson are a tier above him. Still think he's a very good player. Still think that he thinks the game at a high level. He just needs to be more consistent. He didn't play very good competition. But if you're going to give me a player with the last name Manning at the beginning of the 3rd round, I think that makes sense. I don't know how he loses value. If he steps in for Quinn Ewers and he doesn't look good, the argument is going to be, well, like he was a true freshman. It doesn't really matter. I think that he's just going to go higher in next year. And I actually think he'll go higher in drafts as well. I know we don't like him at Campus Cam as much as, some other quarterbacks, but I do think Arch Manning's still a really good player. And so I will go with another freshman. I am content. And my strategy in general is taking freshmen. I think that they have insulated value, and I think that their upside has not been truly revealed in the way that some of the year 2, year 3 players have been. So, yeah, I'll take Arch.
I think that his value has the potential to vary widely based on whether or not a C2C or consumes our content or someone else's, because I think, people who listen to our content are generally going to consider him after Malachi Nelson and Dante Moore. But I could see someone taking Arch Manning in the 1st round of a Devy or a C2C startup based on the name and what other companies might say about him. I could see that potentially happening. So, all right, this is it's tough. I don't know exactly where I'm going to – actually, I do know where I'm going to go here. This is the running back that I thought could have been taken earlier. Kansas running back, stayed at Kansas, has produced as a freshman and as a sophomore. I don't know that he has the ceiling of some players that I could, a freshman that I could take, but I'm going to take Kansas running back Devin Neal here. I think there's a potential that he stays all 4 years, but he still has an all-purpose skill set. He has his size is okay for the position. And they're building something good there at Kansas. He's going to be right in the middle of it. So there's a potential that he could come out this next year, but he might stay all 4 years. Either way, probably an RB2 or 3 for me in CFF. So I'm going to get those points for him. So give me Devin Neal here.
Very interesting. There's been some transfer portal shifting, which has kind of altered what I would normally want to do here over the past couple of days. Does Team 6 have a quarterback? Yeah, they fucking took Kyle McCord. Okay, I can't do that then. What a waste of a pick in the 2nd round. Okay, just give me Trevante Citizen here then. Running back, he'll be his 2nd year at the U. They don't really have anything else there. Like, he's going to play. I was reminded that they do still have Don Chaney there, who I did like once upon a time, but he's just been absolutely ravaged by injuries and not banking on him. And then it's Henry Parrish, and that's it. Then it's Citizen. Was a top 4 back for me in last year's class. 3-down skill set. Really good athlete. I'll take him here, but it's definitely a risky pick. I will fully admit that.
Yeah, that's who I was going to take. So I'll go Justice Haynes here. This team does not have a running back. Mecca Buka, Dante Moore, which I do not love starting out. I would have gone running back before this. But there's not really anybody I love left. I've got one other running back ranked fairly highly in Jace McClellan, but I like Justice Haynes' talent more, so I'll just take the freshman running back here.
So, Matt, I want to ask you real quick, since you said you would have taken running back before.
Yes.
You took Mecca first.
Yes.
And then looking at the running backs that went after Dante Moore, Edwards, Shipley, Baxter, like you would have rather taken one of those at that
over Dante Moore, yes, because I don't have a massive separator. Malachi is my clear one. I do not have a big drop off from Dante Arch. I don't remember who I have it for. Maybe Sam Levitt. But my next couple guys, there's not a massive drop off between those guys and Malachi Nelson. I'm fine not getting Dante Moore and then getting Arch later or Sam Levitt late. Like Sam Levitt's not going in the top 5, 6, 7 rounds. I believe he could be one of those guys who's special. I'll take him later. I don't necessarily buy into the freshman QB stuff that you and Moxley do, mostly because we've also seen that those guys do lose some value. We say they don't, but sometimes they do if they don't go out there and perform or if they don't get on the field. Like Malachi is the only one I think does not lose value because he's attached to Lincoln Riley. If Dante Moore does get a chance to go out there and sucks, which I don't think will happen, but if he does go out there and suck, Arch Manning may not be ready even by next year. We don't know. Like, there's just a lot of questions I have on those guys. So I would have taken probably Baxter over Edwards or Shipley, to be honest, but I'd have been fine with any of those three over Dante Moore.
Despite wanting to cause chaos, I will not do it here and avoid taking the player Austin will take in the next round. I'm really torn between two quarterbacks, and I've just been taking quarterbacks the whole time. I'm going to go Ty Simpson. I think that he is the starter at Alabama, and I liked him coming out. He was a 5-star. He comes from, I think, a family that he had all the access to resources. His dad is the head coach at UT Martin. Like, he's a little out of control. I think Felix is competent to Johnny Manziel, but I think his out of control is more in control than he gets credit for. And if he's the starting quarterback at Alabama this year, then he's just going to go in like the second round of drafts, period. I've had it hard to believe that he's going to be lasting to 308. And that's only, in my opinion, the possibility that Jalen Milroe starts, which to me is like less than like 10%. I just don't think Jalen Milroe is the guy at Alabama.
I don't know that we're getting to the challenging part of this draft yet, but I think we are getting to the point where some of these are shots at ceilings. You saw Matthew take Justice Haynes. Austin took Trevante Citizen. There, Chris just took Ty Simpson. None of these guys have played, and that can continue with my group because I'm going to take Roderick Robinson. I mean, how can you a Georgia running back who's built the way he is? That feels like a pretty – I'm shooting for ceiling here, but also, you know, I'm relying on the program that they have, the track record that they have at developing running backs. And so, you know, I'll take a shot here. I'll take a shot on a guy who I think is probably his value is just going to increase after this season if he doesn't get a lot of touch. I think that he could get time this season. So give me Roderick Robinson here at pick 309, freshman running back headed to Georgia.
Yeah, pick 10, then I'll take Jonte Cook, the incoming freshman wide receiver going to Texas. I thought about taking him a pick or two ago. I am slightly more concerned than I was a week ago with AD Mitchell transferring in there from Georgia. I thought, like, Isaiah Neyor is nothing. If Jonte Cook,
you guys are crazy.
Jonte Cook would play over him in a heartbeat. Dude, you want to take the guy who runs a 4.6 from Wyoming coming off a blown knee?
Disrespectful. It's just not just about speed. It's not just about speed. Quinn Ewers needs a catch radius guy. Needs an X wide receiver who can
it's AD
make
Mitchell
up for
now.
Accuracy mistakes. No,
it's AD Mitchell
okay.
now.
All right. Okay.
Dude, Isaiah Neyor will have under 30 catches this year. And he honestly
but
might not
10 of them might be for touchdowns.
He honestly might not even get close to 30. This is
as we get closer to the season, we'll have an Isaiah Neyor bet.
Please.
As we get closer to the season.
Please.
All right.
So yeah, Jonte Cook. I still like him.
Matthew, before you make this pick, describe for us how you're feeling. Be honest.
With what? I hate this whole exercise because I hate that I'm picking multiple different teams, and I hate every build that I'm getting stuck with. But outside of that, it's awesome. Drew Alar and was it Evan Stewart were my first 2 picks. So again, I need a running back. I don't want to take a running back here, but I will take Jace McClellan. I just talked about how I might have taken him at the last pick. I think you're getting fairly decent value here. Is likely going to be the lead back at Alabama. If he has a decent season, we know that matters. I doubt he's going to get high-end day 2 draft capital, but maybe he gets 3rd round if he has a really good season with Alabama. So I'll take McClellan to kind of give myself some type of running back for this team.
I have not been paying attention to the team structure because
me neither.
I just don't mock that way.
These 2 nerds in the middle have been paying attention to team structure.
Yeah. So I'm team 12. Team 12 currently has Malachi Nelson and Barry Brown. Not a bad start. Not a bad start, but we're going to double dip at quarterback. This is a player that I was very, very low on, then became much higher on. And dang it, Austin, if you're watching on YouTube, Austin already filled in the doc because he knows who it is. I'm taking Cade Klubnik, the quarterback at Clemson. I love the hire they made at offensive coordinator. I think that they can be a far more productive offense than we've seen the last couple of years under Tony Elliott and then Brandon Streeter this year. Garrett Riley just like opens the playbook up substantially coming in from TCU. I really, really think that Klubnik could outperform expectations. And I liked him a lot more ending the process. And I actually thought he played pretty well when he came in stints. Like he's had a couple throws that I thought were really impressive throws. One against Syracuse where he like threaded the needle between 2 defenders that I think was probably his best throw all season. But I like getting Klubnik here. And I like getting Ty Simpson at my earlier pick, obviously a different team, but Jonte Cook was the guy that I knew Austin would take, which just to prevent the chaos and allow Austin to spout on his guy, I avoided it.
All right, Austin, if you could scroll up for me, I'm going to recap round 3. We are, we've gone long. I mean, it's the off season. We don't have anything else to do. I think we may pick this up next week. Let us know in the comments if you want us to pick this up next week. I'm getting chastised in the private chat saying this has to end. This has to end. But I want to pick it up next week because I think that our audience would benefit from seeing us go a little bit deeper in a C2C mock draft, especially given the landscape of college football right now where there are so many new players. And we got to see where the values are. So here is round 3. Starting at the 301, Zachariah Branch headed to USC. Xavier Worthy going to Texas. Matthew Golden, a little bit of a wide receiver run there, headed at Houston. Arch Manning, the Manning kid, is going to Texas there at the 304. Devin Neal, Trevante Citizen, Justice Haynes, who we just had on this episode, taken at the 307. Make sure you listen to that. Give us a rate and review. Come on now. We got Justice Haynes on the show talking about who the funniest kids are in the locker room there at Alabama. Give us a like. That's worth a rate and review. Ty Simpson, Roderick Robinson, freshman headed to Georgia. Jonte Cook, freshman headed to Texas. Jace McClellan, who should succeed Jahmyr Gibbs there at Alabama. And Cade Klubnik at the 312. So hopefully, you enjoyed this episode and that you'll come back with us. I think that it would be a good idea to continue this exercise next week. Matt, Austin, Chris, any thoughts on that, on continuing this next week?
Sure. Like you said, what else are we going to do? It's the off season.
Okay. Why don't we just go through 10 rounds tonight? Come on, let's just do it.
I would. No. Don't even try me.
Where's the end button? Where's the end button?
I would go.
Apologies, Kirk Herbstreit to you.
I was all right. So I hope this has been one of my favorite episodes that we've done of almost 3 years of Devy debate. So hopefully the audience enjoyed it. But that is going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. You ran out of time. We will get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nason, Chris Moxley, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.